Well, basically, those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Christina. I'm the founder of the Merit Club. So do drop me a hi in the chat box. It's always nice. You can actually locate it at the bottom. And please make sure you change it to all panelists and attendees. I always say that because otherwise it's only me and Indra who can see your lovely messages. So that's always nice to do that. So today I am joined by the lovely Indra, our finance ambassador. And if you have been with us for a while, you know that we've been bringing you monthly discussions and talks around the topic of finance, whether that's around your savings or investment, etc. It is all for helping you create the lifestyle that you want, basically. That's what we're here. So today we thought about bringing you something a little bit juicier, a little bit different, and talk about the money habits of the wealthy. Indra spent almost 8 years with a firm covering high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals and clients from Iceland and the Baltic states. And now Indra runs her own company designed for women and to help them with their finances called Lily Advisory. So make sure you have, if you want to, have a piece of paper, pen and paper with you. It's always handy when we talk about interesting things so you don't forget it. We might mention a few books and things that you can read. And also, please feel free to chat to us in the chat box or submit your questions in the Q&A button as well. I will keep my eye on basically the chat box, but it will be a very sort of free-flowing, interactive discussion that we wanted to bring to you. So I'll stay on as well, even though we have a little presentation that we wanted to sort of share with you. I think I may have, that's why I'm quite distracted because I may have actually muted someone. I don't know, I pressed some buttons, so I'm so sorry, Katya, I think. I don't know what I did to your account. I will fix it in a second. So anyway, over to you, Indra. Let's start this wonderful discussion and I hope you enjoy it, ladies.
Well, today is a bit of a different topic from the usual ones because normally we get very structured, we kind of gather to learn more and think about your habits and how you can change what you're doing to get on that path of building wealth. But today instead, we gonna gossip a little bit, and who doesn't like a little bit of gossip, right? So first of all, let me share my presentation. I did put something together for you guys. You should be able to see the presentation now, right?
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you can actually see it, because sometimes it just acts weird. So you can drop a yes in the chat and then we'll know that you've got it. Awesome. I can see it. Great. Amazing. Right. Perfect. Shall we start with a quick question to the lovely ladies that we have here? Go for it, Indra. What should we ask?
Well, I think would be interesting to hear where you guys are tuning in from. Is everyone back to London now, or wherever you are based, or are you still, remoting in from somewhere? So I'm always curious. For example, myself, I'm tuning in from Sardinia. I'm one of the crazy lucky people that gets to spend my days in the sunshine and the seaside. So in fact, Belfast. Oh, fantastic. I've never been there. And hi, Eileen. Yeah, great to hear. This is the thing. Remote working, I think, is the new way of going. Another Londoner, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, Jane from Surrey is beautiful there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in London. I'm in central London. Not very exciting at the moment, obviously. Katya's from Berkshire, London. Wonderful.
Czech Republic, woohoo, fantastic.
Regina, hi, Czech Republic.
Yeah, so
we have an international.
We have a nice mix. Fantastic.
Yeah, audience here, awesome, amazing. I think it was.
Go on.
Go on. I think we're just going to do this. This is how our conversations, ladies, usually go. We're just so eager to talk. Tell me, Jay.
I think the other question that I want to ask everyone is, since we are going to talk about money habits of the wealthy, I'm curious to know, what do you think is the top habit
Mm.
that wealthy people tend to have. So type in the chat and let me know. I'm curious to see what do you think it takes to really get there, and then we can reveal if that's true or not.
They don't spend beyond their means. They pay themselves
Definitely.
first. Nice.
Definitely. Shrewd.
Shrewd.
Tell me about it.
Always know where their money are going. Golf.
Golf. True.
Yeah, I actually think that's that's quite accurate, I would say. Lavish,
First
and
security, then
lavish.
party. Yeah, a lot of you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah.
Golf
Interesting. I
eventually.
like it. I like it.
Yeah, I think your lady's on the right path.
Yeah,
Definitely.
more or less. Yeah. Definitely. So you're definitely, you know, on the ball with that. So let's talk about what we're actually going to talk about today. And I decided to split it into two sections, really. The inside job, what I call, is really me sharing some interesting insights. And to be honest, because I'm no longer working in the company and I'm no longer working with any of these clients, I can actually share the real stuff. So this is not going to be generic types that we're going to look at. It's really going to be looking at specific people that I have worked with in the past and seeing how similar or different they are to each other. I picked a few interesting stories that I want to share with you as well, because I think they definitely deserve a mention. And then we're really going to look at what are the do's and the don'ts. So I picked, you know, there are many things that people that amass this kind of wealth do, but I decided to pick the top three for both categories. So the top three do's and the top three don'ts, just to sort of put it a little bit into perspective. So let's have a look at these wonderful people and talk a little bit about them. So in reality, there really is no one type of person that becomes wealthy. It can really be anyone. It can be any of you. You know, you still got time. That's the thing. There's no age limit. There's no personality type. It's just absolutely so varied. And in all honesty, it takes a number of different things to happen for a person to get to that stage. But let's have a quick look at some of the people that I had the pleasure of working in the past, just to give you an idea of the type of different backgrounds that people have and the different ages that they can achieve significant wealth, and whether, you know, they have any kind of specific traits. So for example, Tina was an incredible lady that I worked with. She was based in Estonia. She's Estonian. And she was one of the founders of one of the first private banks in Estonia. So really big deal. I mean, she's almost celebrity in her native Estonia. You know, she was a CEO of this bank. She was one of the founders together with another two gentlemen. And how she became wealthy simply by selling her shares. The local bank got sold to an international player at the time, and that's how she amassed her wealth. And it was very interesting to work with her because she was a very nice and gentle and friendly person. Every time you would meet her, she would always ask you about you and how you were, and she was just an absolute delight to work with. However, she was very, very switched on when it came to managing her wealth. She asked probably the toughest questions out of everyone in a very nice way, but they were always, you know, I always knew going in to speak to her, I have to be very prepared. She knew everything. She was very, very switched on. Obviously, coming from a financial background, it helps to then really be able to question the banker who's looking after your money. So that was a shocker, because I think quite often we assume that, you know, when somebody leaves their wealth to manage for a banker, they don't really get involved. However, she was a very different type of client. And I just wanted to say also, because we want to make this a discussion, if you have any questions while I'm talking, just pop them in the chat. I have it open so I can see if you know there's something.
I have it open as well. It's actually quite nice to hear that you don't have to be a horrible person, you know, in order to be wealthy. And obviously, that's not necessarily the case.
No, absolutely not. I think to some extent, it's a bit of a misconception. You have to be very structured and strategic, but it doesn't necessarily have to make you a shitty person, basically. And to be honest, I was quite lucky. Most of the clients that I worked with were really, really nice. There were a few that, you know, were not as nice, but most of them were. For example, Victor, and I'm gonna tell you a little story about him later. Actually, I might as well tell the interesting stories now. So he became wealthy at a late stage. He became wealthy when he was already into his late 50s. And he is somebody who just, you know, built a business in biotech without even thinking that one day it can make him a millionaire. It's something that he was passionate about. He studied, he was a professor, and he just, you know, for years and years and years, it took him good 30 years, 25 to 30 years to build the company. And then eventually when he managed to sell it to a huge international player, he ended up with a 60 million fortune, which was, he is from Lithuania originally. So in fact, his case has been used as a case study in the kind of financial world many times to just show what is possible and how you can, you know, work your whole life and build something like that. And to be honest with him, if you saw him walking on the street, you would never even think that this person has 60 million sitting in their bank account. He continued driving the same old car, like a Toyota or something that he had. You know, he used to dress in his, as you see in this picture, in his little sweater, little scarf, little rucksack, you know, and he would come to the meetings. And it's quite incredible. So with his wealth, what he did, he obviously took part of it for the family, for the future generations, because he's a grandfather as well. But he did quite an incredible thing that he decided over the years. He has collected a number of paintings done by local artists, and specifically modern art paintings. And so what he decided to do is actually build a modern art museum that he's donating to the public effectively. And it's already been, he partnered up with some famous architects, and it's already, I think it opened a year or 2 years ago. So I think that's such an incredible thing. So he always wanted to, you know, leave a legacy behind, and that obviously will always carry his name. So for future generations, he's always going to be known as someone like that. So that was
that's so sweet. That's actually really, really sweet that you know, he is not thinking about his, you know, materialistic things for himself and buying the latest, you know, supercar or whatever. That's actually quite nice to give back to the community. We have a question about what kind of difficult questions Tina was asking.
She would always, you know, want to know exactly what was going on in the market. So difficult questions were in the sense that she would always want to drill really into details into her portfolio, why something performed well or why something didn't perform well. And she wanted very detailed answers, you know, what exactly is going on at any given point in time. So she wanted to know as much as possible of what's happening. And when you're managing a portfolio that has a number of different investments, and we're talking about 30, 40 different investments, you know, you need to really prepare for those difficult questions, because she would be going through each single name and each single investment and asking, you know, why is this happening? Why is this happening? So that's where she was sort of going into very much detail.
So, well, just for my own benefit, when you work with a financial advisor, would you suggest to invest in something, or would you literally take the lead of the finance advisor in terms of, was she coming with ideas of like, oh, I actually want to invest my money in this and this? Or
so
was
there are two ways of doing it, exactly both ways. So you can either give the discretion for your wealth manager to make those decisions on your behalf. So you come up with a broad plan and you set some goals, what you are looking to achieve, and you effectively say, I'm giving you discretion to make day-to-day decisions how my money should be invested. And then we meet up every 3 months or every 6 months and go through the details of how things are going. So she was doing most of that. However, quite a few investors tend to then on the side also take an approach that for part of their money, they want to call the shots. And as an advisor, your job is to give them some ideas, and it's their job to then make a decision and choose whether they want to participate in this specific idea or not. And I would say most clients, especially those that come to wealth management, tend to have a little bit of both, because they focus on making decisions themselves on the things that they know really well. So for example, in the case of Victor, he was always interested in investing into, for example, startup companies in the biotech industry, because he knows that industry very well. However, he's not really somebody who can manage all of the other aspects of his money. So that part he dedicates to a wealth manager, and he just keeps the fun part effectively, or the part that he has the knowledge in.
That's so interesting. We have another question about what is important for them when they choose the consultant or the wealth manager.
There's a lot of different aspects to it, and I guess for different people, different points play the importance. But I would say some of the key points before you choose is you need to trust them and trust their knowledge. Are you happy that they will have your interest at heart, and are you happy that they know what they're talking about? Price is always a discussion, and very often when you compare different providers, you narrow down, as a client, you narrow down to the top 3 that you like, and then you have a bit of a price war between them. And then because in the top 3, you normally are happy with everything else that they're offering, and then you're just trying to get the best deal. And to be honest, I've never come across a client who does not try to bargain on price.
That could be one of the traits that they have, right? Which is something that we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah, like they're very conscious about what and where you spend your money. Yeah. And then the final, I guess, most important part is also the breadth of instruments that a provider can offer. Because what you want to avoid is having too many different providers that you go for a different type of investments, because then you need to find ways to really look at the full picture of what's going on, and it can become quite cumbersome if you have 5 or 6 different providers. So ability to offer a variety of vehicles and types of investments, it plays a massive role as well.
Interesting. Well, let's continue with Tony. What does
So he is probably my favorite, I think, like by far. He was such a super nice guy. And, you know, I met his wife, and now I still go for lunches and catch up with his wife just to kind of keep in touch and know what's going on with them. So it's super nice. He is from the tech industry. So he sold a business that he built from scratch. Now it's 3 years ago for also $60 million, which was incredible. Again, he just, you know, followed his passion for the industry, came up with this fantastic business, and then didn't even expect it. And it took him, I think, around just 5 years from start to finish. So he was completely sort of in awe, thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I've made so much money. And his approach is incredible. So they, you know, they took all of the money and they sort of said, this is for our children. They have already one, and the second one is on the way. And they're not tapping into that money at all. He's already on business number 2, and seems like it's going very great, and it has potential to be very successful. His wife is also looking at going back into work. She's a lawyer, and she's sort of saying, you know, like, I enjoy working. They're very young, they're in their late 30s, you know, so they're not interested to suddenly retire and just sit on the money and live off it. They literally are not even using a penny of it. And again, they moved from the US to London a couple of years ago. Do they live in the fanciest neighborhood? Absolutely not. They live in Islington because they like the area, they like the vibe. They live in a 2-bed apartment. You know, they're not going over the top and getting all the latest things and all the latest gadgets. They don't even own a car. You know, it's a completely different approach. Sort of what they've built is for the future, because they're still so interested in staying in the game right now. And that's definitely something that I would say, you know, when we talked, when you mentioned a little bit that it's interesting to see that they're not buying the cars and the yachts and stuff. And what I've noticed a little bit, it's quite often the people who tend to go for materialistic things to show off are those who have a little bit less, who are not really there yet, and they like to show off. Or those who have so much that, you know, buying a yacht for them is like for us buying, I don't know, a handbag, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the middle doesn't really tend to do that, because they tend to be quite smart with their money.
Can we put a number on that? In terms of like what middle means, what high means, what low means?
So I think middle is kind of between 10 and 100, and then high is above 100 million onwards. Because when you get into the hundreds, that's, you know, that becomes different.
Yeah. And then anyone who's below 10 maybe have more of a tendency to show off things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally agree.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Moving on to JG. I don't know why I call him like that, but because I always refer to him like that. But his name is Jonas, real name. So he is character, that's for sure. Like a very smooth talker, very charming guy. Does have a wife and kids. So, but just
putting it out
there. Yeah, quite a charmer. So he was a very interesting guy to work with, because again, very young when he became wealthy. So part of the wealth came already from the family. So he's second generation. So his father already started to build a business in the energy sector. He's from Lithuania as well. And they were effectively trading electricity. And that's how they made their money. So it's again a bit of a different dynamic coming in as a second generation, because you haven't made the money. However, it all, I think, goes down to how the first generation approaches teaching the second generation about wealth and business. He's a proper serial entrepreneur. So as I said, they started with energy, then he went into real estate. He then went into hospitality as well. I mean, he's somebody who constantly is looking for the next idea. And again, it's, you know, someone who has a huge wealth. But one of the clients once told me, you know what, the first million is the hardest, then it becomes easier. And after 10, it basically is no longer about the money. It's about the game. It's about, I guess, proving to yourself that you can do this, that you can achieve. It just becomes a completely different way of looking at it, because it's in your nature. You want to find things, build things, and then sell them on, and then move on to the next. It's sort of, it becomes, I guess, adrenaline driven, and you're kind of, you know, competing maybe with your friends. And for example, he, you know, there's a group of them that are of a similar age that amass this wealth, and they are to some extent in a competition. Who's gonna make a better deal? Who's gonna build a better business? It becomes a bit of a playground at that point. You know, you don't care about the money, because you can buy effectively, to a reasonable extent, whatever it is that you want. I mean, he is traveling the world with his family. It's like on his bucket list. Every month he takes his family somewhere, wherever it is, because I follow him on social media. It's incredible, like, how much they're traveling. For him, it's a passion. So for that, he loves spending money. Other things doesn't really bother him, right? Because it's not a passion. He drives a nice car, has a nice house, but that's about it. So it's, yeah, it becomes something, it becomes a different animal once you reach a certain stage. Now, moving on to Miss AR. So she's an interesting one. So she owns a beauty salon and a bakery. So she's somebody who is not as wealthy, right? So she is below the 10 million mark. And I thought I'll throw her in just to kind of mix it up a little bit and just show how different people can be. And exactly, you know, she only shops at the Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and those kind of shops, and likes a bit of show off. She spends her holidays in either LA or south of France, you know, these spots to be seen and to see. Monaco, you know, best hotel in Monaco, and she goes skiing. Of course, it has to be Verbier, and the best hotel in Verbier, and, you know, that kind of her. She lives in London now, but she's originally from Lithuania. Her son, of course, has to go to the best boarding school, and he has to participate in all of the extracurricular activities. It has to be horse riding, tennis, you know, the whole shebang. So it's very different approach. However, and she does come across as a very cold kind of exterior, but then once you get to know her, she's actually very lovely. And I think she's incredibly insecure, because she's in that, I'm wealthy, but I'm not, you know, super wealthy. So kind of want to be perceived as I am very wealthy, but always having that little insecurity. Whereas if you talk about everyone else, they don't really care. They don't give a shit what people think about them. They don't care, you know, like, they have nice style, but they're not bothered about what label they're wearing and things like that. Whereas for her, it's still that kind of transitioning period.
Do you think that would actually change in the future if she goes, as we were saying, you know, just using that rule sort of thing, if she then becomes much wealthier? Do you think she would actually lose that? Or she would still seek out the Chanel?
No, I think at some point, it depends on the person. So she is probably someone who will always be like that, because that's just her. But I think after a certain point, it will just tone down, because she in general, I think in order to advance further from where she is, she needs to change her mindset and improve her insecurities. And with that, a different understanding of wealth and money would come.
Yeah, totally.
But it's, yeah.
We have a quick question. When do you think people
Mm.
should hire a financial advisor?
So let me explain two things first. So there are two terms that are used quite interchangeably, but they're very different. So there's someone who's called a financial advisor, and then someone who's called a wealth manager. So there's either financial advisory or wealth management. Now, a financial advisor, when should someone hire? It really depends, and it's not necessarily about having excess funds. A financial advisor is designed, or the job of the financial advisor is designed to help people that are not necessarily amassing a lot of wealth. They're there to advise you on your pensions. They are there to also advise you even on your savings accounts and ISAs and things like that. So it really depends when people decide to see one, but it doesn't mean you need to have a lot of money or you need to amass millions to actually engage with a financial advisor. If you need some guidance and if you need help, it makes sense to speak to one straight away. And what I always say is you need to weigh it up, whether the fees that you will pay are worth for you the advice that you're getting or not. But in all honesty, there's no sum of money that you need to amass in order to speak to a financial advisor. Wealth manager is a whole other story, because normally wealth management firms have a certain minimum in terms of when you can enter and when you can speak to them, because it's a slightly different way of looking at things. It goes beyond, pensions and ISAs. This is about managing wealth, and that normally, depending on the firm, can start from 5 million upwards. Some firms would say 10 million. There are maybe a few smaller firms that would consider taking you on when you have 1 million, but I would say wealth manager 5 million onwards for sure. So it's a very different role that these people provide. I hope I answered the question well.
Yeah, well, we shall find out. Let's go on to Eva.
Oh, I really loved her. She is what I call a woman with balls, big time. So she is Latvian by origin, and she used to run a massive hotels group in Latvia. And then she got married to a German guy and sold her hotels and opened up an asset management company with the husband. And that's what she's doing right now. But she just was incredible. I mean, every time I used to go and see her, she would sit me down and give me advice about everything, life, relationships, this and that. I mean, it was incredible. I think that there's something there with women who made it all the way there, that they really want to help those that are aspiring and the younger generation, because I think they realize how damn hard it's been for them. And also, I think, given her age, she's now in late 50s. At the time when she made it, it was damn hard for women to really make it in business. And in Eastern Europe, trust me, dealing with Eastern European clients is tough. It's very, very male-dominated, chauvinistic approach. So to make it as a woman and staying a woman is hard work. So it was really, really incredible to work with. And again, she started with nothing. She effectively started, I think, with something along the lines of a little bed and breakfast thing, and then, upgraded until she owned one of the most incredible hotels on the main square in Riga. Like, that was incredible. And in addition, she also actually owned a beauty product business. So sort of like in the hotel, there was a spa that was also stocked with her line of products, which was incredible. And that's something I've always wanted to have, you know, a number of different businesses. Like, it's just incredible, you know.
So good.
And she, again, you know, all of these people were tough in some respect to deal with, in the sense that they were very nice, they gave you advice, but they paid for a service and they wanted to get that service. So there's always that element, and that's the thing. I think what really kind of unites them a lot is this sort of, I know my worth.
Totally.
And the confidence that they have. They know what they're going for.
What's interesting is the examples that you have here. It seems that all of them obviously are entrepreneurs, all of them own their own businesses. And there isn't one example here, and I don't know if you have one, that where someone was employed and still you manage their wealth. Do you have any?
So I don't have anyone like that, but I can say my boss was somebody who was employed and became a millionaire.
Yeah, and is it usually people with their own businesses who
more often than not, yes.
That's very interesting.
Because, to be honest, to be employed, I think certainly someone who works in the financial industry, well, used to, okay, like, because now it's very hard to become a millionaire by being employed and just working in one job. Unless you get to the point of being a CEO of a blue chip company. And of course there are those people, but if you think about it, they are the minority, right? There's only so many companies in the world that, you know, pay millions and millions to their CEOs, and quite often these would be very, very senior and older people. So it is obviously possible to do it, absolutely. And as I say, my boss was one of the people who became a millionaire, but again, you only get to a certain point. So he was under the 10 mark. And absolutely, there are CEOs that earn tens of millions, but they are in the minority.
And we have a question about, and the CEO on the picture wasn't employed, and I was like, which one is that? And then I noticed that Tina, I think you, Indre, said that she was the person who
sorry, so when I say the CEO, she was the CEO of her own bank.
Exactly. That's why I was like, did I get this wrong? But so that's why I remember.
So she was the owner and the CEO, so I should have been more clear about that.
No, it's fine. Oh, fascinating, really interesting. Right, should we get to the next slide?
So let's have a look at the do's and what it is that these people do. And as I say, there are many, many attributes that these people would have. I picked the top 3. So first and foremost is risk. They take risk all the time. They take calculated risk. They don't just jump into things without knowing. But in order to advance, you have to be able to take a risk. You know, the old saying goes, if you don't take risk, you don't drink champagne, or something along those lines.
I don't know that one.
Oh, sorry. Or maybe it's just in my country that we say that. Probably. Sorry. Ignore that. But it's about taking calculated risk. It's about getting out of your comfort zone. It's about looking at a number of different ideas and weighing up the pros and the cons, and then deciding, okay, there are more pros, therefore I'm gonna go into it, I'm gonna take a risk. Because if you're just going to wait to go into something that you are 100% sure about, it's never going to happen. You have to be able to take on risk.
And it's also, was that Einstein who said the insane thing is, I can't obviously quote it perfectly, the insane thing is when you keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And to a certain extent, maybe that falls under the risk category as well.
It does. Like under this category, I'm sort of saying take calculated risks, get out of your comfort zone. You know, you have to be always on the edge of your seat. That's how you go forward. And it's exactly, if you're just, you know, doing the old routine, nothing will ever change. You have to, you know, move with the time. You have to look at what else is new. And with the world advancing so fast and so much, you have to adapt. You have to move alongside with it. Otherwise, it becomes very risky. Learning is another key thing. It's all about, you know, learning, self-development, whatever you call it. And it's in many different ways. I mean, all of these people were reading books, they were learning from others. Even when talking to us, you know, they were asking questions in order to understand, in order to learn. If you were putting a new idea, a new investment idea in front of them, and it wasn't something that they understood, they wouldn't just say yes or no. They would ask you questions, and they were not afraid to ask the question and to say, you know what, I don't get it. Explain it to me simply. What is it? Why should I be investing into this? It's all about expanding your knowledge. And sorry if I'm looking down, I actually have some notes.
It's actually a really interesting point. Sorry to interrupt. I remember when I was working in corporate, and my director of buying, we had meetings with her every week. And I was always so amazed that she was just asking the silliest questions that even me as an assistant buyer knew the answer to. She wasn't afraid to do that. And she was like, oh, sorry, you know, we were talking about technical stuff about the website, whatever, presented by someone. And she was the first one who was just like, sorry, I'm not sure what you're talking about. And I always felt that I wouldn't have the confidence to do that, because it's interesting how once you sort of maybe have the confidence and you know your abilities and things, you're not afraid to ask those questions. Often the people who just want to look knowledgeable and perfect actually shoot themselves on the foot, because you're going to be the person who just like, no, I'm not going to ask a question because they're going to think I'm silly. But that actually means that you're not advancing, and you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Exactly. If you want to further your knowledge, you got to ask the questions. That's the thing. And one other thing I would say is failure doesn't exist in their world. Okay, nothing is failure. It's all a learning curve. If something doesn't go according to plan, or if you make an investment idea and it blows up in your head, that's not failure. You don't go, you know, away sulking about it. You look at it from a very pragmatic and practical point of view. What can I learn from it? What can I do better next time? That's the thing.
You've been attacked by bugs.
Yeah, sorry, there was like some weird bug there. Sorry, guys. And someone already mentioned this, being in the know, knowing exactly where you are at all times, where your money is, what your goals are, what you have, what you are spending. I think some people believe that, if you're wealthy and rich, you're just splashing money left and right without really knowing. Absolutely not. And we talked a little bit on this point just before, that actually they know where every penny goes, and they bargain for every single penny.
Every single thing. Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
The people I know that they're not going to be the one who just let things slide and it's like, oh, well, £100 here, £100 there, or you know, giving money to their, or lending money to their friends and whatever. No, they're going to know. And I know, like, every single person I spoke to regarding Budo, they're actually quite open about their finances. Funnily, the people I know, they're not afraid to say. And I know that they always said to me, you have to have your little black book. You need to know. I sit down every Sunday. They always said, you know, that's the first thing I can recommend you. I was trying to learn as much as possible from them. It's like, have your little black book. But every single thing that you spend on that, obviously you have your bank account, whatever, but just like have an understanding of what's going in and out, and questioning things, and making sure that you get the best bargain. But yeah,
absolutely. That's how you save money, right?
Yeah, exactly. We have a question about, have you ever seen a client who took a risk and then faced very negative consequences or losses?
Absolutely. I would say
stories, please.
90% of them did, but I can tell one story that was quite interesting. So Jonas, or JG, that I talked about earlier, so he decided to invest in this business that was a chauffeur business in London that was kind of looking to do things in a new way, differently, you know, those kind of startups that he liked the idea, and he said, you know what, let me put some money in. I think initially he put a few £100,000, I think about 150 or 200,000 pounds. Half a year down the line, you know, the business was needing more money, and then again he put another 100K. So basically in total, I think he went up to close to 500,000, and all of that blew up in his face completely, because he then discovered, because he wasn't paying enough attention, he discovered that the guy was running the business kind of basically robbed him a little bit and was doing things on the side, and you know, it was all a complete and utter mess. So yeah, absolutely, he lost all of that money. But you know what, he kind of, that's the thing, it's sort of like, okay, I made a mistake, what do I learn from this situation? I learned that I need to always be on top when I invest direct in a business like that. If I don't want to do it myself, then I hire someone who knows exactly what's happening at every single minute of every single day. And I need to look at the financials much more closely. And I just need to manage these type of investments in a different way. So there is always, you know, 2008 was a terrible year for many investors who lost millions, to be honest, right? It was a very tough year because of the credit crisis, and because the markets just went down like a speedboat, and there was nothing you could do. So there were many people that lost. But that's the thing, when you take on risk and when you calculate your risk, you know what you're able to lose, you know how much you're putting in this specific idea, and you always know that there is a chance this is not going to work and you're going to lose that money. And it's about diversifying and never putting everything you have into one idea or one business or one investment. It's about taking these sort of big risks in a calculated way, where it's not going to affect you as dramatically, so that you can't continue with your lifestyle.
Yeah, totally. Do you think now, with everything that's happening, do you think we're going to have another 2008?
Oh my God, nobody knows, to be honest, and I can't predict that. Who knows?
I know, I'm just maybe you in the know. We have a comment about, for me personally, I always look at long-term investment. Once I lost a chunk in short-term investment, never again. Yeah, I guess we really
exactly. Long-term is right, and that's the thing. Being able to ride the wave, being able to kind of plan for the long term, for the longer future, and not getting stressed about those interim movements. But yeah, long term is the way to go, absolutely. Short term, you know, when you put money into kind of shorter term crazy ideas, that's what I call it, more your casino money. That's when you know you're playing, right? And I love to do that. I do that because I like it. I enjoy it, you know, and I know how much risk I can take. And with some part of my money, I can take big risks and crazy risks, and because I enjoy it, I do. So it really depends what your goals are.
We have a question about, how did you start your career?
Well, I did start working basically in private wealth management back in, 2008, 2007. So I did an internship in my second year of university at Morgan Stanley, and then they offered me the job, and I went to work there without really knowing what am I getting myself into. I didn't really understand what it was back then, but then I don't know, I really enjoyed it, and I realized how much I can learn from all of these people. And eventually I decided to leave the company and set up my own business, because I worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, my thinking was like, look, if I really want to make it, I gotta become one.
Yeah, good point. Right, let's crack on. We have 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how
talking a long time. Yeah. So the don'ts, what are the 3 things that they absolutely don't do? So being blind, is really about basically putting money into something without doing your due diligence. And one big thing is not lending to friends, because, and I know it probably sounds bad, right? Like, oh, what if your friend is in trouble and stuff? But I think this is what happens. These people don't want to mix friendships and money, because there is also a trust issue, because they never know if the friendships are true or not, because they do have a lot of friends around them that are really there for one reason only. And that's why I think if you just kind of avoid that altogether, it helps you sleep better at night, because it's a very tricky topic to manage. And someone already mentioned overspending. Absolutely a no-go. Never, never overspend. And you know what? If you really want something badly, you figure out how to get it. You don't just go into debt because you want something really badly. You figure out, what are you going to do to make it happen? That's more of an attitude. And, I'm talking about debt, but of course someone mentioned leverage. Yes, leverage is effectively when you're playing with more money than you have, but that's a smart way of taking risk, and that's a smart way of using investment tools to basically advance your wealth further. And it's being smart about how you do that, but not because, oh, I want to buy something, so I'm gonna overspend in terms of my capacity. That's definitely a no-go. And never follow trends. That's for damn sure, because if you're gonna start doing what everyone else is doing, it's gonna pretty much blow up in your face. It's a little bit what happened in 2008, and I don't want to go into details because we don't have time for it, but when your cleaner and your taxi driver became a real estate mogul, that's when you knew something was not right, and that's when you knew that something was gonna go terribly wrong, and it did. So you have your goals, you have your vision, you know what you're working towards, and you have your gut feeling, and you have your way of thinking about life, and that's what you stick to. Do you listen to others' opinions? Absolutely, you listen to what they have to say, but at the end of the day, you make the decision that you're comfortable with. You don't do something just because everyone else is doing. Like Bitcoin is another good example. Suddenly everybody was a Bitcoin millionaire and Bitcoin entrepreneur. But yeah, it's about doing what makes sense to you.
Totally.
So what could you do to get there? These are some very, very simple ideas and tips that I think are worth looking at for you. So if you haven't already creating your savings. And I always say to divide them into two pots: your emergency fund or rainy day fund, and your investment fund. Now, what you want to be doing, you want to be adding to your investment pot at least 10% of your income on a monthly basis. And your emergency fund, you want to aim to have in there at least 6 months worth of your expenses. Ideally, you want to aim for 12 months. Because then you can really relieve a lot of financial anxiety when trouble hits. And I think this year we've learned that we can't always predict when things go really, really wrong, and you want to be prepared for that. If you haven't already, for your investment fund to start with, open an ISA and start from there, because that's a tax efficient way of investing. What is an ISA? It's an individual savings account, and there's a number of different ISAs available. You can find a lot of information online, or you could speak to a financial advisor about that as well. Or you could pretty much go to my Instagram profile, and I'm pretty sure I have some information about it there as well, if you're not following me yet. Point three, start following your income and expenses on a regular basis. So exactly what we talked about. Know where you are, know what you have, and know where your money is going. That's, you know, that's key, to be aware of things at all times. And when I talk about aware, like really knowing where it's going, not just kind of like, oh yeah, approximately I know what I'm spending. I'm talking about sitting down and writing it down and knowing every single penny. And that's it.
Amazing.
No,
tip.
that's not it. No, sorry, that's not it. I knew there was something else. Yes, there are two more tips. Once a month, do something that's outside your comfort zone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be around your finance. Whatever it is, just get into the habit of doing it on a regular basis. So pick something that makes you uncomfortable and do it once a month. That's all. It doesn't even take that much to do it once a month, but it will get you into a good habit of stepping out of that zone. And absolutely dedicate how much you want to invest in yourself and your self-development on a monthly basis. Look at your budget and shuffle it around so there's at least 50 or 100 pounds towards your self-development, because that will come back, you know, more than double to you.
Yeah, exactly. Knowledge is something that's always gonna, you know, come back and what's the word I'm trying to find? It's always going to generate more for you in a way.
Yeah.
Knowledge is one of those things.
It's a long-term thing. It's a long-term investment, but it's one of the most investments you could do. One of the most important investments you could do.
Yeah, so interesting. So interesting. So many interesting stories. I loved it. Yeah, I think we shared quite a few nuggets of wisdom, even just looking at what other people are doing. You know, that's how we can learn a lot, actually. Do you ladies have any more questions?
Oh yeah, why do you do something uncomfortable? I know that's a good question, right? Why would you do something that makes you uncomfortable? Because and that's my personal opinion, that's not based on any facts, but I do believe that going outside of your comfort zone helps you grow your tolerance to risk. And when you're able to take on more risk, you're able to generate bigger rewards. It's that thing that, you know, if you just keep doing the same things over and over again, the outcome will never change. In order to change things about, you need to push yourself. And the best way to push yourself is go outside of your comfort zone. For example, when you are little, we can use the gym, I think, and working out as a great example. If all the time you just do, I don't know, I'm into calisthenics, but let's say if all the time I only do 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups, and I never ever push myself, I'm never really gonna achieve results that I want to achieve. In order for me to gain the muscles and gain the body that I want, I have to go beyond the comfortable point and always try to do more and more and more so that the results come. And I think it's the same.
Yeah, I think it's every aspect of our lives. You know, when you identify one of your weaknesses, is really the only way to overcome that is by actually doing it, and it's just, and a lot of that sort of equals risk. So yeah, thank you so much, Bavia. Good to have you here. She's just saying she's signing out. But yeah, I think it's with a lot of things. I'm just going to stop sharing your screen. So
oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about that.
So yeah, I think it's but it's calculated risk, isn't it? So in a way that you were saying, don't do anything that you don't feel, not following trends, don't do things that don't align with you. I think risk is very much the same in that sense. It's not about following what someone else is telling you to do, and you feel that element of, oh my god, this feels risky, but it's more about calculated risk and looking at things that are still okay for you. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think totally. Ladies, do you have any more questions to us? Just want to make sure that we haven't missed anyone. I really enjoyed our chat. I hope you enjoyed it, ladies, as well. Thank you. I think
thanks.
No, I think we should do more of these sort of discussions ones, because I think they're fascinating. If you have, ladies, if you have any sort of areas, topics within finance that you want us to talk about, then definitely just put it in there, or send us an email and then we can make it happen. Because obviously we have Indre, our finance ambassador, so we do these discussions every single month. So you can basically tell us what you want us to talk about. Next month, I think we already have a very interesting topic. So
Yes.
but definitely excited to bring amazing stuff for you. So yeah, the event was actually recorded. So if you're a member, you can watch it in your members area in a few days' time. And yeah, I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say. I'm just going through the list in my head. But thank you so much, Indre. Thank you so much for
Well,
sharing
thank you
all
for
of
having me,
this.
and we seem to be bang on time, so that's all
Yeah,
good.
I think we did really well, considering
Yeah.
all the chats, and we always, overrun and run over the deadlines and stuff. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Have a lovely evening, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Have a good rest
Bye.
of your week.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.